everybody. I'm Candid Frankie's Aaron William Freeland, and this is Maple Leaf Talk. And as you know, we're talking all things under the Maple Leaf emblem, and not necessarily the Toronto Maple Leafs alone. We include the Blue Jays and every other Canadian team, Canadian player, Canadian national team, Canadian amateur team. Whatever Aaron finds that speaks to the Canadian experience, it will turn up here at some point.
Rather broad and far-reaching, but we'll see how we can make this work.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the biggest stories are going to take up most of our time and some time. I guess the biggest story, the judge has spoken, Carocha. She acquitted the 5 hockey players.
Yeah, this is something that was a long time coming, starting from the initial report back in 2018, all the way through to Hockey Canada paying a settlement, and that's starting a little scandal of its own, involving jacked player fees, as well as a second slush fund for this sort of thing, to charges back in 2022, to 2 dismissed juries finally going to a judge-only trial. And now we're here with Judge Maria Caruccia saying she did not find the complainant's testimony to be credible or reliable, noting that her story had inconsistencies, thus not meeting the court's standard of beyond a reasonable doubt. As a result, Michael McLeod, Dylan Dubé, Cal Foote, Alex Formanton, and Carter Hart, who faced charges of sexual assault, were acquitted, meaning they were found not guilty. So this is one of those things where, the case was reopened. The London police initially declined to press charges, and it disrupted some NHL players' careers. That would have been McLeod, Hart, Dubé, and Foote. Formanton was playing in the Swiss League at the time. All of them went on indefinite leave and are not currently under contract with any teams. In addition to that, Hockey Canada has barred them from playing for the Canadian national team. Hockey Canada has an investigation open. They're actually going to be reviewing the judge's decision, which was read out on Thursday morning, starting at 10 a.m. It took approximately 5 hours for the judge to go through all of her different points and explain the reason why she came to the ruling that she came to. So
one of the statements that the judge made, which speaks to the difference between the court of public opinion and the actual courts. We've seen it in various manifestations. We've seen it with the President of the United States and all his followers talking a certain way publicly. Then when they go into the court says, hold on, dude. You got to tell the truth here, and you can't throw whatever you want against the wall. All we want to hear are the facts, the truth. The one statement that the accuser made was, Your Honor, I came here to tell my truth. That's not why you go into a courtroom. You go in a courtroom to tell the truth. The truth is everybody's domain and not just an individual's domain. And I think the judge made a point of that. And I think that weighed heavily on the judge's mind in making the decision. That doesn't mean, and you and I, we split at this point. We're not talking about here. You and I can both argue about what the definition of innocence is in this case. Are they innocent? Well, in the court of public opinion, I think it's still an open question. I base that statement on this point. Hockey Canada and the National Hockey League are looking into this situation. So now it's sliding into the court of public opinion because Hockey Canada and the National Hockey League are not in the business of facts or a summation of the truths and comparing truths and coming to a truthful end. Now we're in the political sphere. We're in the area where there are motivations for both those organizations to find one way or the other. That is a grim reality. It is not the court system. The court system, if it works right, and I want to make that clear, if the court system works right, because I'm not sitting in the courtroom every day, and neither are you, Aaron, we still have, as somebody used to say on radio, a Spockian eye open, right? Wondering what actually happened. But at the end of the day, if you have faith in the legal system, the court system and then the public domain are two different kettle of fish.
No, 100%. And a lot of people had already convicted these individuals based on the court of public opinion. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, shouldn't we give them the benefit of the doubt because, isn't it innocent until proven guilty? But that's only inside a court of law. The court of public opinion is something else entirely. Now, as part of her findings, she found that she couldn't rely upon the evidence of EM because it was unreliable. Yes. But here's the thing. EM had consensual sex with at least one of the players earlier in that night, which complicated the issue. Because how long and how far does that consent extend? Is it to that one particular instance, or is it to however many of the players that were involved? Initially, it was 8. 5 were the only people that were charged. In this case, the judge said to have found actual consent, not vitiated by fear, which means that she consented of her own free will, despite potentially having been impaired and not being coerced into said consent by fear of reprisal, physical or otherwise, from the players. And again, that's something that, you're revisiting events 7 years on. There are going to be inconsistencies. There are going to be shifts and changes as to what people remember, just based on the experience and the time. Had charges been brought in 2018 when this initially have happened, there might have been a different end to the story. But because of the passage of time, because of players coordinating through group chats as to what they should talk about and what they shouldn't talk about, all that sort of fun stuff, which didn't meet court's burden of proof that they were guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. This is a situation that we find ourselves in, and you have people on one side who believe that the players should have been convicted and should face the full force of the law for this sort of thing. The majority of them have already lost their livelihoods. The NHL has suspended them indefinitely pending the results of this investigation. And then you have EM, who was forced to relive the trauma of that evening. However, she remembers it in attempting to tell
whatever extent it affects her, and to whatever extent I see this as a situation where one needs to be very careful to cast blame. And the reason I say that, Aaron, I want to make this clear. It's not about the blame on the players that I'm worried about. I'm worried about the blame on the woman who maybe felt like let's just say, let's go to this end. Maybe she felt that night like it was something at the very time that this is something I'm okay with. I'm not even going to say that she was totally in agreement of what happened, but she permitted what happened. We shouldn't be painting her, even if that's true, we shouldn't be painting her with a brush. What consenting adults do, what they do in their privacy, doesn't leave anyone to judge them for what they do. In other words, the point I'm trying to make, I'm starting on this end of the spectrum. Whatever she did that night. She's entitled to do whatever she wants. On the other side, these guys did something that in some circles, right, in some groups of people, that this is not something that they should be doing. This smacks on sort of moral judgment. So now we got two things we're dealing with here, in my opinion: blame and moral judgment. And I personally will not blame anybody in this situation, because I wasn't there. Never mind, I wasn't in the courtroom. I wasn't there. And the last thing I'm going to do is judge anybody. And to me, this is where the problems begin, because everybody gets on the horse they want to ride in this situation, right? And what are we actually talking about? We're talking about stuff that I can't say none of us were there. Very few people were there and actually know what happened. Very few people actually, and to your point, I have to say, when I came on here, I didn't think about this part, and I should have, is also memories change over a 5 to 7 year period. So the facts may be too difficult to arrive at, which is ultimately, I think, Aaron, the best thing that you said that I agree with more than anything is after this time has passed, there's a lot of gray area that time has created. One thing's for sure. One thing is for sure. If a woman says no, we all know what that means. It means no. It doesn't matter whether you're halfway down the road or you're halfway across the river. If a woman says no, it's no. If a woman says yes, we can't judge her. Again, I'm trying to cover all the bases here. And as long as a person respects the relationship, whether it's physical or at that moment when it's physical, they respect the movement and thinking that person has. We have to understand and be aware that, and I think this is the lesson that this case, I hope, teaches people. Yes at the beginning doesn't necessarily mean yes at the end. At some point, someone could have second thoughts in the middle of making a decision. That's how I'll defend this woman. Whether she expressed it appropriately enough for the judge to say it was done or not doesn't change the fact that maybe she had second thoughts down the road. Again, that's where we don't judge her and we can't judge them, only because I don't say this because I don't want to have an opinion. I say this because I don't have an opinion about something that I'm not at. So I'm trying to generalize it from my perspective. I'm trying to learn from this experience, and that the best I can say is people need to respect what everybody wants. Like, as far as her truth is concerned, she can have her truth, but at the same time, it has to come second to the truth. And then we can respect what her truth means to her. And then we can think about that and learn something from her truth. That's the way I see this whole thing.
And there are some really disheartening statistics that come out of all of this too. When you look at sexual assault and rape and all of that, according to Statistics Canada, 43% of sexual assault incidents reported to police result in a charge being laid. Of those, 49% proceed to court, of which just over half, or 55% of that number, led to a conviction, of which just over half, 56%, were sentenced to custody in a correctional center. That means of all of the stuff that gets reported, just over 3.25% result in a conviction. You know, half.
So that's the numbers look like, right? They look mathematically friendly. Yeah, and what do we hope that is learned in this? And that is that everyone has free will, and no one's will should be imposed. No one should impose their will on someone. I'm breaking it down. I'm taking it out of the sexual sphere. I'm taking it into the human sphere so that we all understand the right that we all have. And I think sometimes it's a speckled history or a speckled world that we live in, where the exact same rights, depending on whose rights we're talking about, matter more than other people's rights. So at the end of the day, I want to generalize. You do what you wish. I'm not going to criticize how you interpret. Again, I'm going to be very specific here by being very general. The generalness of what I'm saying is every human being has a right for their own pursuit of happiness. No one should be able to interfere with their pursuit of happiness and contentment. I hope I'm not oversimplifying. I'm just trying to make the point that we all have a right to be who we want to be at every point in our lives. And no one has the right to take that opportunity, that free will away from us. That's what this is all about.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we are where we are. The result is the result. there are a couple different ways that this can go. But as far as a lot of pundits are concerned, the NHL has made the right but difficult decision in saying that these players will not be able to play until our review of the judicial proceedings is complete. And that's, as far as I'm concerned, that is the NHL doing their due diligence with regards to their player behavior clause and the morality clauses that some of them have in their documentation, because there is a certain standard of behavior that is expected outside of the rink of NHL players, because a lot of them are seen as role models. So this sort of behavior can potentially tarnish that, and the NHL is well within their rights to protect themselves in the same way that the NHLPA has right to advocate for them to be playing again.
There's a very simple explanation for what you just said. Is smoking weed illegal?
Currently, no, but the public stigma towards it still prejudices.
Okay, that's that one. But now, from the context of a professional sports league, my point is two things. I'll mention two that everyone who's a sports fan can relate to and can understand and have seen. If you smoke weed and you're an athlete, you play professionally, it can get you in trouble. It won't get you in jail, but it'll get you in trouble. If you're an athlete and you gamble, it won't get you put in jail, but it will get you in trouble. This is what we're talking. So when someone says, well, they weren't found guilty in a court of law, what gives the NHL and Hockey Canada a right to judge them and to arrive at some sort of independent conclusion to the courts? Well, it's the same right they have when they tell players they can't gamble. It's the same right when they tell players they can't smoke, they can't smoke weed, or they can't do, performance enhancing drugs that are even legal. Remember this, folks. Athletes who take cough medicine, I'm being very general here, that if an athlete takes cough medicine, there's something in cough medicine, there's something in over-the-counter medications that exclude you from being able to play in a sports league, that get you suspended. So this is, we have to understand, to Aaron's point, and I want to support what Aaron's saying, and I think this is what Aaron is saying, and I hope I'm not talking for you, I hope I'm just agreeing with you, that there are rules that are set that have nothing to do with crime and punishment. They have to do with moral standing. They have to do with decisions that are made because of the effect. You can call it. I'll diverge from the being a person who's a model, a model person. I'm going to go with the league. There's reasons why they don't want players gambling. You can figure it out. There's a reason why they don't want people taking drugs. There's a reason why. There's a reason why that's specific to athletes, to teams, and to professional leagues, and the relationship, as I said, about gambling as well, that they have with gambling. So this is not, the two things are not the same.
No, that's very true. And this, this also goes to describing the situation that Bowman, Quenneville, and Al McIsaac found themselves in. They were ruled ineligible to stand as coaches as a result of their inadequate response of being informed in 2010 of allegations that Kyle Beach had been assaulted by the team's video coach. Did they do anything illegal? No. But at the same time, there is a
can I correct you just a tiny bit?
Sure.
Was it provably illegal? Maybe no.
Fair. Would it get you convicted in a court of law? No.
Does it matter?
At the same time, no. Because you know what? And based on the language that Gary Bettman actually used to describe the player's actions, he called it abhorrent, reprehensible, horrific, and unacceptable.
He's being judgmental there. He's being what I don't want to be. Listen, they shouldn't. The problem with Bettman and the problem with people in general, because this is exactly what I was talking about. Everybody gets on their horse and rides their horse in the situation. At the end of the day, all Bettman has a right to say is, we have a standard that we expect players to maintain. If they cross this line and if we believe they've crossed the line by this much or crossed this specific line, they're suspended. He doesn't have to judge the players. That's Now, this is why, I'm not a big fan of, he's been a bully as long as I can remember. His reputation is a bully. And that's bully talking. He should just stick to the facts. And the fact is the league has standards. The players have a responsibility to meet them. Why? Because they have a contract that's signed by them through their organization, right? Their players' organization with the league. So this is not about a court system. This is about an agreement. If you contravene the agreement, so sad, too bad.
Now, the NHL PA obviously is disagreeing with this decision.
Which they have a right to do.
Yep, they absolutely have a right to do. It's in their best interest to have their union dues paying members back on the ice. That's the long and the short of it.
Well, it's as far as the NHLPA, and I won't talk about other leagues because other leagues behave slightly differently. What we have learned from the NHLPA, they will side on a player who does something the league that they shouldn't have done, that they contravene the rules, let's say in some sort of physical manner, and take the side of the person that did the harm. And in our opinion, and I'm going to say our opinion because I know where you stand on this. In our opinion, I'm going to say that we wonder, well, where's the NHLPA on the victim side?
Yep.
Where are they on that? So a lot of times it's all about, they're only in it for who gets paid. It's about the pay. Anything that takes pay away from a player, doesn't matter why. Doesn't matter why. It could be something they did to another player. They're going to side with the player who's losing money or who's being fined or who, whatever, is not getting a job in the NHL. They're going to side with that. Again, court of public opinion. That's what that is. That when I say difference between right and wrong, court and public opinion, that is a perfect example of what I'm talking about.
Legal versus public is really what it boils down to. Yep.
And we can, Bettman can say what he said. He's entitled to say that. I just don't think it's right that he talked like that. I think it should be, instead of name calling, it should be about the rules and just be very simple in saying, like I said, all he had to say was, look, we have a set of rules. I'll say it again. We have a set of rules. They broke the rules. So sad, too bad.
Yep. And that's really what it should have boiled down to. He shouldn't have been labeling their behavior or any sort of thing.
No,
that's not
his
job.
Wasn't there. I say it because he was not there. And I doubt he was in the courtroom. I think all he's going on is what the accusation was. And that is something I have a real bone to pick. Like, that's when I start getting really testy, because I'm not a big fan of accusations. Just because an accusation is leveled, there's a minimum of punishment a person should get, not because of what they did, but because of the accusation. No, that's not the way life should work. Last word to you, my friend.
Like I said, at the end of the day, this isn't a result that many people were hoping for. Time will bear this out. We may never know exactly what happened, but the judge made a decision based on the evidence that was presented, and that is the most that we can hope for in this particular situation.
I lied. And let's also make sure that we understand another important point. Anytime a person feels that they've been abused, they have a right to be heard. Not necessarily the person they're accusing to be automatically guilty, but they have a right to be heard. And that's the other lesson we must learn from this. Yeah. And then the facts should conclude, should allow us to arrive, the people in charge to arrive at the right conclusion, not me. I'm not sitting.
No, I'm definitely the wrong person for this.
Right. Me too. Okay. So, Tennis Canada has produced some pretty good tennis players, Aaron.
Yeah. As it currently stands, there are 3 seeded Canadians this time around who are going to be put into different quadrants when it comes to the play-in tournament. They've all received buys for the first round because they are seeded. So as it currently stands, we're looking at Felix Auger-Aliassime. We are looking at Gabriel Diallo, and Denis Shapovalov. It's the first time that Canada has 3 seeded players in the men's bracket at its own national open. Now, what happens is each of these players receive first-round buys as part of the revamped ATP Masters 1000 tournament, which will feature 96 players and take place over 12 days, running from Sunday through August 7th for the first time. Basically, what it means is it allows a friendly draw and home crowd, which could help the Canadians' chances as well. Oj Aliassime is seeded 21st. He won't have to face a seeded opponent until at least round 3. He's also staring down a potential 4th-round match against American number 4 seed Ben Shelton, and a possible quarterfinal against number 7 Francis Tiafoe also of the United States. Shapovalov from Richmond Hill is seeded 22nd. He'll have to go through a quadrant that includes Lorenzo Musetti and Casper Ruud to reach the semifinals. And then Diallo is the 27th seed, and he shares a quadrant with number 2 Taylor Fritz and number 6 Andrei Rublev. Alexander Zverev is the top seed in the tournament, and this is after players like Yannick Sinner, Carlos Alcaraz, and Novak Djokovic have decided they are unable to perform due to injury.
And then let's talk about Leylah Fernandez, who upset Jessica Pegula. And in case you don't know who Jessica Pegula is, she's the daughter of the owner of the Buffalo Sabres and Buffalo Bills. And, of course, the Buffalo Bandits, I think. Or he just sold the team, I think, didn't he? The Rochester team he had, and he just sold.
Yep, the Rochester Americans.
Rochester ones.
Yeah. So Leylah Fernandez advanced to the quarterfinals of the City Open hardcourt tennis tournament on Thursday. So that's yesterday, with a 6-3, 1-6, 7-5 upset over top-seeded Jessica Pegula. She had 5 aces to 9 double faults and broke on 3 of her 8 chances in the 2-hour and 19-minute match. She had 5 breakpoint opportunities in the final set and converted on 2 of them. Next, Fernandez is going to go on to face Taylor Townsend in the quarterfinals. That's tonight. That is, a very, very good result for her. Earlier that same day, Gabriel Diallo was ousted in the 3rd round of men's play with a 6-3, 6-2 loss to 4th seed Ben Shelton of the United States. They're going to run into each other again at the Canadian Open, so that's another opportunity for them. He's seeded. Diallo was seeded 15th in Washington and entered the tournament with a career-high world ranking of 35. He's next going to play at the National Bank Open in Toronto. So that's where we stand.
The Jays have a young player in Vancouver they're hoping that develops into a star.
Yeah, this is actually somebody that actually had a bit of a documentary made on them on Amazon Prime, too, talking about Arjun Nimala. He's the number 1 prospect for the Jays. He's 19. He's currently living in Vancouver, away from his parents' home in Valrico, Florida, and he's been kind of working through everything. It's one of those things where he's saying it's definitely hard. It's definitely something you have to consistently make an effort for. You could definitely get lost in what people are saying, stats and all that stuff. And for an athlete, especially baseball players, those aren't the best things to be looking at. He is number 46 on Major League Baseball's top 100 prospects. It's not only the shortstop's performance on the field that's grabbed headlines, but his story. His parents immigrated from India to the States before he was born. And when Toronto picked him 20th overall in the 2023 draft, it's the first time an MLB team had selected a first-generation Indian player in the 1st round. And by Indian, we mean overseas, not
Columbus is Indian.
First Nations.
Columbus.
Yes. After spending last season with single-A Dunedin, Nimala has shown major potential since moving up to Vancouver this year. He's 6'1", 175 pounds. He's got a .232 batting average across 84 games. He's tied for most runs on the team, 55, and slots in at 2nd for most home runs with 11 with the Vancouver Canadians. Now, June was a great month for them. They chalked up a franchise record 11 straight wins, with Nimala contributing big hits in several games.
Like the Major Leagues.
Like the big leagues. But, it's, part of the learning process is he's hit a bit of a dry spell. So there is still hope there, along with some of the other players that they picked up in the Schedule 7 draft recently. There is the possibility that if Bichette doesn't stick around, they may be elevated a little bit sooner than expected.
The Jays beat the Tigers, who lost their 10th of 11 games. The Tigers, by the way, were a top team in the American League. The Milwaukee Brewers are ahead in Major League Baseball. The Jays are only 1 game behind them. It's incredible the march that the Jays have been on up the standings.
Yeah, with the things standing the way that they are over all of Major League Baseball right now, Milwaukee's in first at 61-41. The Jays are in second at 61-42. The Cubs are in third at 60-42, and Houston is in fourth at 60-43. We're tops in our division. We're 4.5 games up on the New York Yankees, 6.5 up on the Red Sox. And as it currently stands, the teams on the outside looking in are the Yankees, Mariners, and Red Sox in the wild card race. So we're currently sitting pretty, but there's a lot of season left to play, man.
That's over 50 games,
yeah.
games to be played. So there's a lot of games left. But again, a lot of interest. At the Dome, people going to the game. Toronto loves a winner, and the Jays are winning, and they have a following. It's a big city, folks, and if the Toronto local franchise plays really well, they'll fill the stadium. And baseball has a big stadium, and they play a lot of games, and the tickets aren't that cheap either. Like they might have been back in the day, but not anymore. It's they charge a good penny to go to a Jay game. It's not cheap at all. For the Jays, they may have a little interest in this story, Little League World Series. These young players working their way up baseball world. This is an amazing tournament, has been for years.
The unfortunate part of all of this is the players 13 to 16 that play for Venezuela have been denied entry into the States. Thanks to an executive order from the President of the United States. Unfortunately,
they weren't given a waiver?
Nope, they were not given a waiver. Cacique Mara, Little League team from Venezuela, was unable to obtain the appropriate visas to travel to the Senior League Baseball World Series in Easley, South Carolina. Little League International Tournament Committee has made the decision to advance the second place team, Santa Maria de Aguayo Little League from Victoria, Mexico, to participate in it. That is the team that Venezuela beat just last month to secure their spot in the tournament.
Oh, it's a shame.
So, they were trying to procure visas in Bogota, but unfortunately, Venezuela is one of those countries that Donald Trump said, you can't come in.
Yeah, okay. So, we'll move on. We'll move on and talk about U.S. college football. U.S. college football there, and a nice story there coming out of Florida. Sure.
So the world's tallest teen, he's 19 years old. He's 7'9". He's actually playing for the Florida Gators basketball team, but they actually decided to try to give him a bit of a tryout at football. He's 7'9", 305 pounds. He's got an 11-inch vertical, but unfortunately, even with all of that, he was unable to block anything. Now, he has played for the Canadian national team and in the Canadian national program, which is awesome. He was actually born in Quebec. So that's just, one of those little, we're going to touch on Canada here sort of thing. And he's redshirting as a true freshman, but he's expected to get on the court in a limited capacity for the Gators this fall. He's unlikely to play, considering the defending national champions have basically returned their entire front court, but he should at least get on the court in garbage time. So they've already considered using him to guard inbound passes, something that Ryu did to perfection just before halftime against the U.S. in the FIBA U19 World Cup in Switzerland earlier this month. He forced an errant pass that led to a turnover and a three-pointer just before halftime. He's also in the Guinness Book of World Records. And so, yeah, it's one of those neat little stories. But unfortunately, even with his extended reach and height, he wasn't able to get a hand on a kick to knock anything down.
All right, and let's talk about somebody who, an athlete that we all know, Hulk Hogan. He had a very busy schedule at the end. Some would suggest too busy and might have led to his heart attack.
Yeah, unfortunately, Hulk Hogan did pass at the age of 71. Those of us who followed wrestling, especially in the late 80s, early 90s, will have some memories of him. More recently, however, unfortunately, he's found himself embroiled in a little bit of a brouhaha. He was caught on a sex tape. He was heard making disparaging and explicitly racist remarks. He has come out as a far-right conservative, anti-trans, anti-abortion. the thing here is you can distinguish between Hulk Hogan, the wrestling character, and Terry Bollea, the man. So I do have fond memories of Hulk Hogan, but not necessarily as much of Terry. And at the end of the day, it's a loss to the wrestling world. He did help elevate the sports entertainment sphere, but that doesn't cover over his behavior outside of the ring.
Well, wrestling owes him a lot.
They definitely do. There's no doubt that wrestling owes him a huge debt of gratitude for elevating the WWF, now WWE, to where it is. But at the same time, there's other things to remember about his legacy as well that aren't nearly as uplifting. So it's unfortunate.
Alouettes make a comeback against the Stamps. This was a real good game.
Yeah, this was one where trailing by 7 points entering the final quarter, the Owls were actually able to score 9 straight points, all via kicker Jose Maltos, to take a 23-21 final lead. Faced with a 57-yard attempt with a little over a minute left, Maltos actually managed to split the uprights with room to spare to give Montreal the final lead. MBT completed 30 of 40 passes for 280 yards and a touchdown to Cole Spiker. And receiver Tyler Snead added 103 receiving yards on 7 catches to help the Alouettes move to 5-2. Vernon Adams Jr. also had a really good game. He threw for 193 yards and a touchdown, but had to lead the game in the fourth quarter with an injury. PJ Walker finished the game, but was unable to help the Stamps hold on to a narrow lead. Dedrick Mills had a pair of majors, and Dominic Rhymes caught a touchdown of his own to round up the scoring for the home team. This drops the Stamps to 5-2.
Bad fourth quarter ended it for them. PWHL Montreal Victoire.
Yeah, so Laura Stacey, one of the unsung heroes. Laura Stacey had an Olympic silver medal to her name back in 2018, but really, literally no idea as to what was going to happen. 2 years after she graduated from Dartmouth College, Stacey had won the Clarkson Cup, the top prize of the CWHL with the Markham Thunder. But unfortunately, women's hockey didn't pay the bills back then, and her spot on the national team wasn't guaranteed. So it was at her parents' house one day after a neighborhood road hockey game on Stacey's 24th birthday when her now brother-in-law said, "Why don't you do this?" By this, he meant organize a road hockey tournament. This is an annual event called Sticks In for Charity. The LS7 Foundation is what it supports, and they've raised nearly $200,000. This money has gone towards helping children access sports and arts programming. So she's managed to turn a little bit of trepidation into something that's really, really helpful. This year's tournament in Toronto raised $65,000, which put them well past their initial goal of $50,000.
Let's talk hockey, and let's talk the Jets and their social media team are a winner.
Yeah, so this year the NHL gave out its Stanley Awards. No, not the Stanley Cup, but the Stanley Awards. They included 8 different award winners, which includes one department of the Winnipeg Jets behind-the-scenes team. They were announced from the club business meetings in Seattle, which are presented for creativity, team achievements, and fan engagement. NHL and TNT personality Anson Carter emceed the event, while Jana Heffert, Walter Jones, and Detlef Schrempf served as presenters. So all the different teams that won, it's very cool. The marketing campaign for Utah won them. Social impact for the Nashville Predators. Social media club of the year was the Winnipeg Jets. The sponsorship activation award was the Toronto Maple Leafs with their Oreos campaign. Detroit won for their ticketing initiative. Tampa Bay won for in-arena game day experience. The Devils won for the Center Pier Club and East Back Kitchen. And the St. Louis Blues won for strategy, analytics, and innovation. So,
Flames, their young goaltender. Next deal, Aaron. What's up with that?
There's a lot of speculation here. Dustin Wolf managed to establish himself as one of the more exciting shot stoppers in the league. He's got 1 year left on his current deal, and the team's probably going to want to get him to sign before the new year. Wolf's one of the best under 25 goalies in the NHL right now. He was 29, 16, and 8, and posted a 264 goals against and a 910 save percentage. And you and I both know goalies tend to slide backwards a little bit in year 2. But he's basically their goalie of the future as far as most people there are concerned. There's thoughts as to who he's actually going to be battling against. But they're saying the sky's the limit at this point when it comes to his next salary.
Absolutely. Eyes on Anderson's future, Aaron, in Calgary.
Yeah, this is a guy that's been talked about a lot between the ever-growing anticipation of Zane Parek's upcoming NHL rookie season and the ongoing speculation about where Rasmus Anderson might actually get traded. A lot of people are talking about it for sure. He's got a year left on his deal. It's looking like Anderson will be playing for the Flames. It's almost inevitable that he'll get traded at some point during the campaign. But with no move materializing around the draft last month, the trade doesn't really seem all that imminent. When the Flames signed Kevin Ball and Joel Hanley to extensions, it provided some stability for their D-core. But because he's an NHL vet who clearly values this relationship with both Calgary and the organization in Calgary, the city, there really isn't too much concern as to whether or not he's going to stage a walkout or anything like that. So, you're looking at Hunter Bristovich as well, and Zane Parek, who isn't going back to the OHL next season. So he's too young to play in the AHL, although that could change next season when every team will be allowed one 19-year-old.
I don't think anybody can complain when it comes to the Edmonton Oilers signing McDavid for the maximum they can. There's a limit to how much you can pay a player, a certain percentage. I think it's like 20%. So depending on the size of the cap, the yearly salary or the AAV can be as high as that allows. And if anybody gets that limit, it has to be him. It would not be a surprise.
I mean, he's got 1 year remaining on his current $12.5 million contract. He could theoretically hit the open market next summer and just let everybody fight for his services. But at this point, David Pagnotta, one of the more respected NHL insiders on Melnick in the Afternoon, said that his guess is that his salary will be about $16 million over a 4 or 5 year extension, $16 to $17 million in there. It's going to make him the highest paid player in NHL history on an annual.
No one would dispute that.
Nobody would begrudge him that. So, yeah, and I mean, they've added Isaac Howard and Matthew Savoie, as well as Andrew Mangiapane for 25-26. So, keeping him around, would it be possible for them to raise the cup? I don't know, but I'm certain we'll find out.
Well, the Oilers have bent over backwards to keep him happy. They brought people that he trusts more than anyone. We talked about this before. The people that they brought in are very close to McDavid. So the Oiler organization has McDavid people in it. There's a good chance that he's going to appreciate that kind of support. But then again, the temptation of coming back home to Toronto could have some pull. And the commercial dollars that he could earn in Toronto would go through the roof as the best player in the world. We can see what it's done for Matthews, and even Marner and Nylander and the way those guys are making a little extra money doing commercials. If McDavid was here, it would be crazy. It would be totally crazy.
And I mean, the good news is with the cap continually going up and projected to be $105 million in the next couple of years, there is room to grow here, basically. So it's not the end of the world.
20% is $20 million. That's like $20.5 million. The Canucks, they seem to be doing some work and bringing in players, but they've got decisions to make, don't they, Aaron?
They definitely do. One of their main focuses for right now would be finding a second line center. It's unfortunately been a very shallow free agent talent pool. The most likely option for the Canucks will be via trade. I think they're planning on keeping the Abbotsford Canucks, their AHL affiliate, intact for the time being. There have been a few younger centers linked to Vancouver, in particular Minnesota's Marco Rossi, who was mentioned a lot leading up to the draft, as well as the Ducks' Mason McTavish. The question is, which current RFA would be a better fit? Rossi's 23. He's a left shot center, 5'9", 182 pounds. Now, Rossi has shown that he hasn't had any problem winning net front battles because of his lower center of gravity and can play a physical brand of hockey. The former 9th overall pick recorded 60 points in 82 games while averaging 18 minutes of ice time. As for McTavish, he's a 22-year-old left shot center listed at 6'1", 219. He's played over 200 games at the NHL level after being the 3rd overall pick in the 2021 draft. He had 52 points in 76 games while averaging 1653 of ice time. McTavish would have to bump that up to compete with Rossi. But at this point here, based on where everything stands for the Canucks, in particular when it comes to salaries, they'll just have to see who they can shoehorn in. And it's not like they're starved for space-ish. They currently only have $3.27 million to try to figure out who they want to get. But it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility that they should be able to sign either of them.
Absolutely. The Maple Leafs, a little bit of news about them. There's no news.
Yeah, they're really, other than fluff and
only rumors.
Pieces. Yeah.
Only rumors. That's all we got going on. But it's going to be interesting. We know it's going to be interesting. New assistant coaches, new players, new DNA.
I think Matty Nyes is being very diplomatic when he talks about playing against Matthews. They're both from Arizona. It's one of those, I'm not calling it a rivalry game sort of thing, but,
Absolutely. I also wanted to mention, for those of you that on a little TV note, if you have not seen the season premiere of South Park, I recommend it.
I'm actually seriously considering getting a 1-week trial for Paramount Plus just so I can see it on streaming, and then
I watched it today. I watched it today.
What did you think?
It was everything I tell you, they didn't hold punches. They didn't hold any punches. They really, they just signed the two guys behind it, 2 writers, 2 guys that are behind South Park. They just signed a $1.5 million deal with billion. 1.5. Let me get it right. $1.5 billion deal. South Park is in its 27th season, I think. I think it's 27 seasons now.
I think let's check on that.
He's going to search. He's going to search. I believe it's
real quick.
It's I believe they're in the
27th season. Yeah.
And I used to watch it when it first came out, and I just got tired of it because it was just, yeah. Well, this one was funny. They made fun. If you want to see South Park's version of what Donald Trump looks like, are you ready for this? Naked. Then you want to see this episode because they showed him naked so many times in this thing here. It was insulting, degrading, but I gotta say, couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
They know how to shoot their shot. They definitely know how to take the piss out of someone.
They definitely do. And just for the sake of fairness, there is no political party, politician, religion. Nothing is sacred to South Park. Nothing. So it's not like they're slanted one way or the other. They attack everything, everyone, everywhere. But it was funny. It was funny. It was demeaning, degrading, and enjoyable, in my opinion. Thanks for doing this, Aaron. He's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Franks. This has been Make Believe Talk, where we talk everything make believe. That is teams, players, and organizations. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.